Hi everyone, thank you for coming back. This is Anna Victoria Wong, Executive Director of Community Family Services of Ontario, introducing our recent publication, Hong Kong Pathway Applications, User Findings and Recommendations. In the last video, we covered the purpose of why we conducted this survey and the background of the actual Hong Kong Pathway policy by IRCC. In this video, I tried to highlight for you the needs of our service users and the needs of aspiring candidates with regards to their experience applying through the process or the barriers against success. First, we need to talk about the graduation year. To be eligible for the pathway, they have to be Stream A academically, 3 years fresh graduate from Canada. For Stream B, it has to be 5 years fresh graduate from anywhere in the world from any accredited university, a degree, or a diploma level equivalent to 2 years of full-time. Now, 22%, which is over 1/5 of our 2,033 respondents, reported that they are stuck between two doors, which means these are all Stream B applicants, as in the fact that they are graduates from years 2016 and 2017, but they are although they're eligible for the open work permit, and most of them have already come to Canada, they are not eligible for permanent residency only because by the time they fulfilled their 1,560 work hours of T4 income in Canada, based on 30 hours max per week calculation, their university degree date would be too old by the time they apply for permanent residency. The policy was announced in 2021, so the earliest available graduation date at that point was 2016, about February. But in 2021 May time, the second step of the policy was announced, saying that one has to be eligible for open work permit to come to Canada to work and accumulate 1 year's worth of Canadian experience equivalent to 1,560 hours of T4 income experience. And those who graduated in 2016 and applied for and may have already arrived in Canada with their open work permit will be or was then and there deemed ineligible for permanent residency. And as this policy took its time to unfold, basically those majorly affected or those most affected by this stuck between two doors symptom are graduates from years 2016 and 17. And based on our 2033 respondents, it's over 1/5 of them, 22%. Now, in terms of more demographics, age range, over 50, so more than half of these respondents, over 1,000 of them, were aged between 25 and 34. And this age distribution actually matches findings from Statistics Canada in terms of the recent immigration trends in the whole Canada. However, what that also tells us is over 50% of them being this age, so close to 50% of them are what we are missing, including, those over 34 would be possibly the middle class people or young professionals who have accumulated a few years of professional experience, asset, wealth, but then their graduation year is a little too old to be eligible for the open work permit program. Therefore, Canada is missing out on their real estate assets, their pension that have accumulated, as well as their knowledge, network, and experience that they have acquired and accumulated. And those under 25 that we are missing, many of whom would have already participated in the socio-political movement back then in 2014 and 2019, and they are probably too young to be able to apply because they have not yet finished their at least 2 years of post-secondary diploma or the degree, or they are too fresh in terms of graduates and therefore do not have accumulated funds to empower them to move and live on no income for a few months while they look for a job. And from these two figures, we can actually imply or infer that the local economy post-COVID, which has shifted and some industries being obsoleted, we are not filling labor shortages fast enough in Ontario or anywhere in Canada. And then a lot of these individuals over 34 are the healthcare professionals, accounting professionals, legal professionals, researchers, journalists, and whatnot that all were trained from a Commonwealth system, but are unable to enter Canada or unable to rejoin the workforce based on their own professional skills. And for the labor shortage of tradespeople or those with lesser skills or with lesser academic background but more vocational training, those were not filling fast enough either. The mold, metal workers, agricultural workers, and other apprentice and tradespeople were not filling fast enough in Ontario or other provinces. And those would be the fresh out of a high school with 1 or less than 2 years of vocational training. Those are effectively rolled out by the Stream B program, and therefore they would not be eligible to enter Canada via the Hong Kong pathway. Now, in terms of where these people want to go, most of them, over 60%, that's actually 63, report to want to stay in Ontario, or they plan to have Ontario as their destination upon arrival in Canada. Close to a quarter of them, 23%, reported to be aspiring for BC, and 10% for Alberta, and there was change for other provinces and territories of Canada. Now, all of these respondents reported one common theme is the fact that they would want a service combination availability like what is offered by CFSO in whatever province or city that they go to. So CFSO is only available in Ontario, and there's only one CFSO, which is under one roof, one-stop shop of mental health, trauma-based services, family services, addiction services, newcomer settlement, disabilities, and special needs services based on a specific ethnic group in a family-centered way. There was only one of us in Ontario, and probably not many, if any, in other parts of Canada. So they are looking for a similar service lineup in other places where they'll go to. As much as CFSO has done its research, it shows us that there are many single service providers or many other providers that provide for separate or individual services of this lineup that they're looking for, but none that provides all of these services they're looking for. And what services really are they looking for? We surveyed them, and 4 main themes are actually pretty dominant. Over 3/4, 76.4%, indicated that they want employment services. So it makes a lot of sense. This is an economic class of immigration. This is not a humanitarian class of immigration. What we want is for these individuals to be quick talents to be imported into Canada and start contributing to economy right away, ASAP. So without ever being in Canada, and most of them not having any ties in Canada, having no understanding of the social, legal, employment system, it's valid for them to be asking for help. 76.4% for employment services. First runner-up, newcomer settlement services. What a surprise! 60.5%. So that's a good 2/3. They need newcomer settlement services. And then close to a half of them, 46.3, are asking for recreational and community services. This is not a surprise either, as these people have no friends and no family ties, no ties at all, and first time in the new country with very different weather, no social support, lonely, isolated with a lot of physical, emotional trauma. They are looking for peer support. They're looking to build and expand their social networks. They just want friends. They want places to hang out that are safe for them to divulge whatever feelings, or safe to make new friends that are not going to snitch at them or judge whatever words they use or behavior they use or media that they refer to stick them in jail. very valid point. Now, close to 40%, that's 38% reported that they need language training services. And also, that's a very valid point. As they're new to this country, whatever English they learned from their previous Commonwealth system would be slightly different from local terms. And they would need such support so that they could build up their confidence in excelling in job interviews. However, the saddest point, or the most important point to make in this question, is the fact that all of these services are available in the sector, but none of these services are available to the Hong Kong pathway users. Why? They are deemed ineligible because of their residency status. IRCC-funded services include employment services, newcomer settlement services, community services for social support and social network building, language services, career services. But with the caveat that IRCC-funded services are only provided to permanent residents, not claimants, permanent residents, convention refugees, not refugee claimants, and live-in caregivers. So Hong Kong pathway users are study permit holders and work permit holders, or spousal work permit holders. None of them qualify for these services, yet all of them, as economic class immigrants, would totally benefit from these services. And as an agency providing these services unfunded, using our own volunteer time and depleting our reserves, we can tell you that these services are very effective for them when done in a culturally, linguistically sensitive way and trauma-based approach with family-centered thinking. So this is what CFSO does. And our experience tells us they need anywhere from 3 to 6 months of these support services to get back on their feet, to become emotionally, socially, and financially independent again. It doesn't take a lot. Contrast, Hong Kong pathway is one of the public policies by IRCC. IRCC does have other public policies, such as the Ukrainian pathway, which is designed in a very similar manner. Only that upon arrival in Canada, Ukrainians through the pathway are automatically and immediately eligible for all of these services and have access to employment and schooling. Now, understanding what Ukrainians have been going through from their homeland, we're not debating any of this, and we're totally in support for them. And we're actually in support for them getting it and people from Xinjiang getting it, or Uyghurs and Burmese getting it. However, Hong Kong pathway being an economic pathway do not have an access to these services, therefore sort of just defeating the purpose of this pathway and not expediting our interest fast enough to have these talents regain footing to contribute to Canadian economy right away. Now, we also did ask a question to respondents to give us any free flow comments, and that's a qualitative question. And 82 of them reported comments, and 82 of these comments out of 138 provided reference the challenge or barrier of the policy with regard to the 5-year graduation restriction. So these people could have been, his or her degree is it's too old, and therefore they rely on their spouse to apply, and therefore they become the SOWP holder, spousal open work permit holder, or their graduation is too old to apply, and therefore they have to redo a program somewhere else in the world, or come to Canada to do a new program to have the clock restart, or fit into Stream A instead of Stream B. Now, having said that, not everybody has the means or wherewithal to be able to do that. First, you need to be able to, kick aside your job, or your job has to be flexible enough to accommodate an academic program, or it has to be an online program or a part-time program, and you have to be financially viable to be able to afford that. So this essentially screens out a lot of talents that would have been very valuable for the Canadian economy in a very short period of time, where we are so much in need of labor force. In the next video, we will, based on our frontline experience and feedback from interactions from clients and would-be applicants who we field questions from on a daily basis, outline to you our professional recommendations in regards to this policy and the sector preparation that can be done to better help the Canadian economy as well as these participants. So please stay tuned. Thank you.